that's a great segue. You brought up reps. So this is a question we get asked quite a bit. So what was it that landed you your first representation?
For me, it was the very specific path of that I think happens when you're a New York playwright. So,
Yeah.
and it also has to do with timing. Like, it was probably different 10 years before I did it, and it's probably different now. But in 2006, 2007, which is when I was making that transition, Sopranos and 6 Feet Under had happened, and so that was the dawn of this sort of, golden age that we're now on the third iteration of, or whatever, wherever you want to draw the lines. And 6 Feet Under in particular was staffed with a lot of playwrights. Alan Ball, who created it, had started as a playwright, and there was a whole bunch of playwrights on the staff for that whole run. And people, I think, associated, rightly or wrongly, and probably a little of both, there's some truth to it, and then it was a little bit of a fake mystique. But I think people associated the character-driven quality and the quality of the dialogue and the sort of psychological complexity of the storytelling of a show like 6 Feet Under with like, oh, that's because they have so many playwrights. And so that benefited the generation of playwrights coming up immediately after that.
Wow.
Because in 2006, I had one play off Broadway, and I had a second play that would end up off Broadway like in the next couple of years, but hadn't yet. And I was just sort of circulating it as a sample. And just on the basis of that, I went out specifically on one of these early trips to LA with my theater agent, who at the time was just an independent manager. Now, he later got hired by UTA and now runs their legit department. But that was years in the future. At this point, he was like a manager who represented directors and playwrights in New York. And just because of the vibe and how the meeting went, and you can just feel it. It just feels right or it doesn't. I ended up signing with UTA. So I think that was early 2007. And they were great. They were like, we're not, just because you are working with us, don't like throw everything you're doing out the window and be like, okay, now I just have to write screenplays and spec pilots. They were like, go back to New York and write whatever you want to write.